Good afternoon, I'm Milton Walker with the Midday News. A special welcome if you're watching on onespotmedia.com. A reminder as well that you can download our One Spot Media app in the Google Play Store or the App Store. That's the number 1, followed by the words Spot and Media. Member of the opposition People's National Party, Dr. Fenton Ferguson, is defending the National Security Minister, Robert Montague, who has come in for strong criticism from members of the public and the opposition regarding the crime situation. However, Dr. Ferguson says both political parties are to be blamed. TVJ's Shamela Mitchell reports.
Murders committed in 2017 and more than 100 since the start of the year. Member of the opposition, People's National Party, Dr. Fenton Ferguson, says there is no doubt the country is bleeding. However, he does not think the National Security Minister, Robert Montague, should be blamed.
There is no doubt that what is taking place cannot be allowed to continue. There's absolutely no doubt that with what has happened in 2017 and the trend we have seen, Minister, in 2018, I personally believe it is unfair that the burden of all of this could be placed at the feet of the minister.
Dr. Ferguson says in his view, he believes that all Jamaicans should take responsibility.
And it is not fair either to put it at the feet of a commission. Because while leadership is always important, whether at the ministerial level or at the level of the JCF or the Jamaica Defense Force, the fact is that where we are now has taken us decades, both administration, to get here.
Despite being in opposing political parties, Dr. Ferguson says he maintains a good relationship with Minister Montague. He says now is not the time to play politics. The interests of the country must be priority.
Jamaica is our country. We can't be talking about Jamaica land we love. And at the political level, we continue to be tribalist and divided, especially on matters of crime, health, and education.
Shamela Mitchell, TVJ News.
A businessman was hospitalized after 2 armed men attacked him at the Spartan Gym on Lady Musgrave Road in St. Andrew this morning. It's reported that the businessman, Uriel James, was in his silver Honda Civic in the parking lot of the gym when 2 men approached the vehicle and started shooting. Eyewitnesses say the men were dressed in construction gear. Mr. James was injured in the incident. However, he managed to drive himself to a medical facility. The 2 gunmen were apprehended by a team from the private security firm, King Alarm. The police were alerted and the men were taken into custody. The police say they recovered a Ruger pistol, a Glock pistol and 22 rounds of ammunition from the men. An elderly man was found dead in a gully on Spanish Town Road on Thursday. The man who is yet to be identified was discovered by students on Wednesday. However, no action was taken to rescue the man. The following day, the students checked and they noticed that the man was still in the gully. The police were called, however it was too late. By the time the man could get any assistance, he was already dead. A woman has been arrested after police seized a firearm and ammunition which was found in her possession. The weapon was seized while the Maypen police was conducting an operation in a park hall, Frankfield, on Thursday. Reports indicate that about 7:30 in the morning, members of the security forces acting on intelligence, conducted a search of a house which was occupied by a female. During the search, the female allegedly threw an object into a washing machine. An officer retrieved the object, which was found to be an Arcus 9mm pistol with a magazine containing 13 9mm rounds of ammunition. State Minister in the National Security Ministry, Colonel Charles Jr., has outlined what he described as positive results from the state of emergency in St. James. He told yesterday's sitting of the Senate that over 12 illegal guns and over 225 rounds of ammunition have been seized. In addition, over 527 persons were detained.
Among the persons detained are 12 wanted men connected to serious crimes, including murder and shooting. The security forces have also advised, Mr. President, that several more of those persons detained are strongly believed to be connected to gangs in St. James and across the country. There are currently, based on advice, 16 persons remaining in custody, some of the persons subject to further investigation.
Meanwhile, opposition Senator Floyd Morris called for bipartisan support in fixing the social issues that lead to crime.
My hunch is that because of the significant deterioration in terms of social infrastructure and the fact that some of the issues that should have been addressed after slavery was abolished have not been fundamentally addressed, we are having these problems today. And I am urging members that we do a detailed analysis of it and come up with an action plan.
Do the right thing. That's the cry of Shadow Minister of Justice, Senator Donna Scott Motley of the People's National Party. Mr. Scott Motley said that the utterances made by Prime Minister Andrew Holness to place Acting Chief Justice Brian Sykes on probation is an affront to the legal profession, the judiciary and citizens of Jamaica. She's calling for the Prime Minister to properly confirm Chief Justice Brian Sykes in his new position. She described the development as unprecedented in the history of Jamaica, adding that she's never before seen a Chief Justice placed on probation. Senator Scott Motley noted that the Constitution of Jamaica provides for the separation of powers of the executive, judiciary and the legislature. She argued that the appointment of Justice Brian Sykes to act in the position of Chief Justice of Jamaica effectively undermines that principle. She argued that the Chief Justice presides over the Judicial Services Commission, which appoints members of the judiciary, and it's untenable that a person in whom such authority is vested is placed in a position where he is uncertain of his own security of tenure. The administration of the Percy Junior Hospital in Manchester are relieved this afternoon following the handing over of its refurbished rainwater harvesting facility in Glencoe, Spalding. TVJ's O'Shane Masters has the details.
A $5 million investment by Caribbean Cement to refurbish the cracks you see in this rainwater harvesting facility for the Percy Junior Hospital in Manchester.
The hospital provides medical care to approximately 143,000 persons per year in all service areas. Since the inception of the hospital in 1945, an area was established, which is where we are now, for rainwater harvesting, to be used as the main source at that time. Over the years, catchment area has deteriorated, causing significant reduction in the water supply available from this source. The hospital has faced many challenges over the years. However, regular water supply remains one of its most constant challenges.
These large cracks have been costing the hospital millions of dollars to repair. In fact, over $7 million annually. But the issue is no more, as Caribbean Cement Company has used a special technology to see the cracks on the surface of the catchment area. Together with its two other catchment facilities, the tanks have a capacity of 750,000 gallons, which represents 90% of the hospital's demands. Member of Parliament for North East Manchester, Audley Shaw, says a model that has been created at the hospital can be a catalyst for many other governmental and non-governmental agencies across the island. He also made mention of another project that can also be undertaken at the hospital.
I'm here thinking of another project to help to fund the electricity bill at the hospital. We have this for water to supply 90% of our needs. And now we have enough space to put up one or two lovely wind turbines right up here. It would not be beautiful? What a model.
O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
Time now for a fact or fiction feature. Fact or fiction? Black History Month started in the United States. Find out the answer at the end of the sports segment of the newscast. In news overseas, President Donald Trump, hopeful that a controversial Republican memo about the FBI might undermine the Russian investigation, appeared poised to allow the document's release. Trump and his aides signaled throughout the day that they would not use executive power to block Congress from making the memo public. The details from the CNN. In this TVJ Sports follow-up, the National Stadium basketball courts will not be ready in time for the start of the National Basketball League this month. Major repair work on the courts is once again delayed after being hit by challenges including wrong material being delivered from overseas.
The discovery of a manhole beneath the basketball courts at the National Stadium in October last year had resulted in a second delay in major repair work being carried out on the facility. It was hoped that the courts would have been ready for January with the sewage issue sorted out, but the National Water Commission still has minor work to do.
Water Commission has indicated that it will take another couple of weeks to actually complete everything that they have to do in terms of surface restoration. But of course, whatever level they take it to, we will then have to ensure that we bring it back to the requirement before we actually implement the final synthetic surface.
But there's an even bigger challenge affecting the $35 million project, which began in February 2017. A second tender process to acquire the synthetic surface for the facility also fell through after being initially approved.
One of the requirements is that the supplier has to provide us with documentation that this surface has been used successfully in a number of places, and they have not been able to prove that to us. Secondly, we are insisting that the Basketball Association feel completely satisfied. They looked at what came. They didn't really express dissatisfaction, but they didn't express satisfaction.
Additionally, equipment brought in for the stands, which will have a new capacity of 1,000 up from 400, was found to be short after the installation work had started.
What we have discovered is that the shipment actually contained pieces that were not scheduled to be here, and we have the shortage of pieces that were actually supposed to be here. We have been in touch with the suppliers and their local agents. We have just completed an inventory process, and we are effectively sorting that out so that we will get the pieces that we need.
So, how will this affect the National Basketball League scheduled to begin on February 10?
They will be utilizing as much as is possible the indoor facility, particularly the National Arena, for the southern aspect of it. As you know, the NBL has the southern, the eastern, the central, and the western. So the southern is where up here would be concerned about.
A June date has now been earmarked for the completion of the project.
Finally this afternoon, the answer to our fact or fiction feature. We asked, fact or fiction? Black History Month started in the United States? That's a fact. The history of Black History Month started in 1915, half a century after the 13th Amendment abolished slavery in the United States. The annual event grew out of the Negro History Week. It is the brainchild of noted historian Carter G. Woodson and other prominent African Americans. It then became a month-long celebration celebrating African peoples throughout the Western Hemisphere and elsewhere. This inspired nations around the world to celebrate the black figures within their country. And that's Midday News. I'm Milton Walker. Join us at 7 for Primetime News on behalf of the news, sports and production teams. Good afternoon.